that is. Are you on your phone? Oh, here we go. Oh,
There we go.
Perfect. Great. We made it work in the end.
Cool. Sorry, this is my first time doing this, and I thought I sent you the request, but something went wrong. So anyway.
That's absolutely fine. No problem. I'm glad that we made it work anyway. How are you
Me too.
today?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are
I'm
you?
happy that we get to catch up again. I feel like it's only
Definitely.
been, I think it's only been a couple of weeks, but anyway, I just felt like the members in this group could really also benefit from our chats and just generally hearing what it's like to be a nutrition coach over in Europe. And of course, if there are, different struggles in Norway that people struggle with there. Well, I mean, like, I'm laughing, but at the same time, it's kind of true in winter particularly. I would assume struggles are different for people in Norway than they might be for me here in Mexico, because I don't really have an actual winter right now. Might be more similar to my clients in Canada.
Definitely. I think that's really the only thing I could think of, like a lot of stuff will be very similar. Fat loss usually, actually not fat loss, but keeping the weight off, that's usually the problem.
Well, and I guess in winter, because steps and so on probably reduces
that's definitely true. Yeah.
Expenditure. But I mean, before we dive into all of that, I would like to kind of for people to get to know you a bit more. So
for sure.
If you want to introduce yourself and specifically also your coaching, Investors Nutrition, and maybe leading into how you got into nutrition coaching or your own personal journey with nutrition.
Sure. Cool. So where do we start? So let's just start actually with Norway, because that is actually true. So there's definitely two things I see that would be more of a problem here, which is definitely mindset maybe, because wintertime, we have 2 months without any sunlight, which is really weird,
Yes.
That does affect your energy, does affect your mood and stuff. And like you said, weather not always that great. So like we definitely do get like times where it's maybe not that great to go outside, So you're actually right there. Like that's only the two like kind of things I can think of when it comes to the difference. But okay, how did I end up here? Because I'm from Holland originally, So basically before fitness, I was in music. I was playing in bands. I was also working in music. I don't want to make this too long, but basically I spent the majority of like 10 years or so on the road, and then, touring with music and then traveling in between, where, I ended up staying in Australia for a year, I think like yourself as well, right? I think, or was that New Zealand or both?
I was in New Zealand for 9 years, but in Australia for half a year as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So then Australia happened, I kind of always did fitness, myself. And we'll get into my actual like fat loss journey, I guess, towards the end maybe. But then fitness always was like a little on and off,
Well, I can imagine that the lifestyle on the road, sorry to interrupt you, but the lifestyle on the road is probably not the healthiest for the most part, and it's probably hard to get consistent with training because, of course, or like with anything really, because you never know like what kind of gym do I have access to, and all these kinds of things.
For sure. I think that was really the thing that I struggle with the most on tour, at least, like the inconsistency. Like, if I think about it now, I literally had years of like sleep deprivation kind of thing,
Yes.
Which, now I can't even imagine anymore. But like, definitely sleep is a little messed up. And then, food choices, like sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere in like a little town in Germany, like somewhere, sometimes big cities too, but you never know. So it's really hard to kind of stay consistent. Anyway, like how did I end up in Norway? Just traveling, really. I ended up traveling here. I loved it. Actually moved here like 5 weeks later because I needed work for winter, which I actually did for a little while as a tour guide. Then I got really into CrossFit, which I had been doing since like 2014. Yeah, so since 2014, I have like been doing CrossFit on and off. But in Norway, I actually ended up becoming a coach, and that's really where it started for me, like fitness-wise, like I guess career-wise,
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I mean, that sounds very interesting for one, and I think that probably when you finished touring around, or like what made you get more into fitness and so on, was there like a moment where you're like, okay, I can't keep living this unhealthy lifestyle, or I just want more accountability, or it was literally just like trying out CrossFit and you just fell in love with it and that's how you got into it?
You know what it was like, because I don't like, for 10 years, like I didn't really have a schedule really, you know. I was always on the go, like literally like all the time. I was home for like 2 days, do laundry, go again, you know, do a tour, do another tour, go home, do laundry, travel, tour, you know. Then came to Norway. All of a sudden, I had like a routine, you know. I had like my own spot. I had enough sleep. I had more money. I actually had more time to take care of myself, you know. And I really realized, like, shit, I kind of need this right now, you know. And I still toured like on and off, and actually I will again this summer, which is really exciting. But it's not going to be like a full-time thing anymore. But it was really that change from like doing so much to all of a sudden just having a schedule, you know, which was actually really nice. And then I just realized like fitness is really important to me. And, you know, I got more and more into nutrition, then started a nutrition, you know, coaching company in 2020 when the pandemic hit, which is, you know, why we're here, I guess, you know?
Yeah, amazing. Wow, cool. Thanks for giving us a little bit of a background. And I'm sure that, or I know for most nutrition coaches, it's the case that all their whole story leading them up to where they are when they are coaches, it just simply makes them a better coach, and they can incorporate so many of their own personal struggles from before into their own coaching. So for instance, or I guess with your clients, what are some of their main goals or struggles? Like, do you generally work with, you know, general population, or where do you start with those people also?
Good question. So it really depends, you know. As you know, like everything is, it depends with nutrition, but there's so much, you know, difference between people. Everyone still needs their own approach or individualized approach. I would say, however, I mostly work with, you know, general population people, you know, some who are like really into CrossFit or like, you know, wrestling or something. It's like a handful. I'd say for the most part, it's fat loss. It's people who've been literally trying everything, which was me like 10 years ago now. Myself, you know, people who really try diet after diet, end up with a slow metabolism, or maybe just have a hard time actually sticking to something, because it's not always that, you know. Like, I think like you and me too, like on that last call, like we talked about that as well. And a lot of people do have that problem, you know, just chronic dieting all the time, you know, all the time. But there's also something to be said about people just not sticking to something, you know what I mean? And maybe being impatient, which is a really big one, or maybe having, you know, like unrealistic expectations too.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination of the two, that's for sure. I remember one of the first things when I started following you that I think you posted on a story or whatever was about like something about FBLive or whatever, like basically saying, you know, like don't do that, and how shocking it is that how many people globally, without knowing any better, obviously, try these kinds of things. And actually, like in the last, with the last live guest with Tammy, I was also talking about, I think it was isogenics or whatever. I mean, they're all sort of the same thing. But of course, like it seems easy, it seems logical, it seems quick. Like why shouldn't I want to do a quick shake here and there? At least I have a specific plan and outline to get me to my goal. And most people don't know like how crazy the calorie deficit is that they put themselves into. And so of course it's not sustainable. And of course, you're not going to want to drink those shakes for the rest of your life either, instead of meals. So I think that is absolutely, like, we have to say that most people going through all these things, including ourselves as well, and we just don't know any better and don't realize in the moment that it's just not sustainable. So instead of like when someone comes to you with a history of that, or you know, going through various diets, where do you start with them? Like, or how do you get them to change their mindset too, from, oh, I need to see quick results, in 8 weeks I want to be 10 kg down or whatever. Like, how do you get them to embrace that maybe we should start with sleep and eating a few more vegetables?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very good point. Like, where do you start, you know? Like, of course, first I want to get to know them, because realistically, like, when you send me like intake form, or, you know, we even get on a call, like, that's cool, but it's still like, it's a very short kind of like, you know, moment. where we're still kind of getting started. So first of all, I just want to see where they're at, give me as much information as possible. Your diet history, exercise, but also sleep, stress, what do you do? All the good stuff. What are your goals? But I really also want to make sure that we start off with the right expectations, because if you've been overweight, and sometimes it's a little harsh to say, but it's also true, if we've been overweight for years, it's not going to just take a couple of weeks or months to kind of get that off, and that kind of sucks to hear, let's be honest, it's not great to hear, hey, you know what, it might take a year,
Of course, yes.
So it's really just having a good talk, first of all, setting them up with the right expectations, saying, hey, you know what?
So how do you, sorry to interrupt, but if someone, most people would come to you probably with a weight loss goal, and then you determine that they probably need to start off with a reverse diet. How do you get them to buy in anyway, or say all right, I'm committed to this because I want to keep the weight off long term, or what's the key to switch your mindset? And even in the process, of course, when you're in your reverse diet, you're probably gonna be every now and then, I feel like this is enough, can I just go back to a calorie deficit? I'm ready for weight loss now after 6 weeks or so, when as a coach we know, okay, it definitely hasn't been enough time.
You know what, that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, you're just getting, you're just working together.
Yeah.
Then you also have to do the thing that's the most difficult, especially if you don't want to diet, or if you want to diet, sorry. And that is eating more,
Mm-hmm.
And this is either kind of it goes two ways, it's either I'm super excited because I'm getting all this food now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to feel good, the workouts are great.
Starting to feel good, yes.
Yeah, I'm getting PRs, energy is better, all that good stuff, and they might even lose fat already. And actually, a lot of people do, which is kind of weird. Usually it's kind of due to just not eating enough protein at the very beginning.
Yes.
Which is great, because if we start with that, hey, you actually get already, you can already see some good results in the beginning, even without actual weight loss.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's one option, where it's hey, you know what? We're actually starting to feel better, and that's what we want.
I like that, focusing on the things that are going well, and let's not focus too much on the scale at the beginning, or even saying, okay, we're not going to weigh in these first few months until we get you to a place where we know that your biofeedback is all restored and where you're eating a reasonable amount.
Yeah. We do still use the data, though. In my case, I'm a big fan of data, and I actually start them off weighing every day,
mm-hmm.
even if they struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my opinion, and we can always try, if it really doesn't work, then it's okay. But usually what happens is, if we actually approach that obstacle, if we actually approach the thing that messes you up, and that could even be tracking, some people might have a hard time getting around tracking. Okay, let's try it first,
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get on the scale, let's actually do that and see how normal fluctuations are. Because the first time you see that scale go up and it's a kilo up in one day, you're like, holy shit, what did I do wrong? And the next day it goes down again, or the next 2 days, whatever, So it's also a lesson, with that data.
I love that little graphic where when people say okay, what do you expect weight loss to look like? And it's this, and then in reality it is this though, or
it's crazy,
down. So
mm-hmm.
So I think that is, most people should visualize that almost daily, because it is so hard to freak out about these small fluctuations.
Totally.
And even not even just daily, but even weekly, having those maintenance weeks, or even a week where it might go up a tiny little bit, and then you're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. You're just a human with hormones and emotions and stress. And that's why the scale doesn't always reflect your efforts, and why weight loss is not linear.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, we have to be realistic as well. We have to be super honest with ourselves, which is not always easy, let's be honest. But sometimes you don't have the right to diet yet, and that sucks. if you really want to lose
That's
weight.
I mean, it's hard for people to comprehend, or for even for a coach to like explain what you mean. Like, I don't have the right to diet. It's my body. I can diet
Exactly. Yeah.
anytime that I want to. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can try, but your body's probably not going to let you lose weight
Exactly.
if you have been eating at 1,300 calories for so and so long. You need to, I always say, you need to like restore your body's trust. If this is a relationship,
Yeah.
your body is currently like incredibly distrustful because you haven't been treating it very well. Like, if you're, it's the same if you're in a relationship with a human and you constantly lie to them, or you don't give
Yeah.
them what they actually need. It's going to take a while to build up that trust again before they're going to give you what you want, essentially.
Yeah. That's really the message I try to get across too. It's like, you don't get to decide, like the body does, you know? And that goes for your maintenance calories too, or like how much protein you need, or how much
Mm-hmm.
fats you need, or something, or, you know, like exercise, for example, or, you know, there's so much that we don't get to decide, kind of thing, you know,
Yes.
but the body does.
Yes.
And of course, you know, you get to decide what you want to do, but like, we do have to be realistic here, you know?
Well, what you get to do, but you don't get to decide how the body responds necessarily.
Exactly.
Like, you can only do the input, and you can try to
Exactly.
do the right informed thing and work with consistency. I guess what that leads me to a little bit as well is that, I mean, I think one of the things that you focus on with your coaching, or what you I guess call with your coaching, is like action-based coaching. So can
Definitely.
you kind of explain what you mean by that? I mean, it sounds self-explanatory, but I would like to know why you're emphasizing that.
Cool. Because it's really in the name. It's action based. Like, you got to take action. Now, I like to compare this to, and this is what I usually bring up when, you know, when I'm onboarding clients. I like to compare this to like driving lessons. Like, I'm gonna be there, like next to you, you know, in the passenger seat. I'll be there giving you guidance, telling you, hey, like, speed up, slow down, you know, look beyond your shoulder, whatever, you know, switch gears, whatever it is. But you still got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna be there, but you first need to show up even to the lesson, you know, and you gotta get in
I
the
really
car.
like that comparison, because, like, I mean, most of our clients, I guess they obviously are fully aware of that, but every now and then you slip back into like victimhood sort of mindset, and
Sure.
just, or even just thinking, hey, I'm paying this coach and I'm putting in like a decent effort most of the time,
Yeah.
maybe like, 70-60%, whatever you regard as
Yeah.
decent,
Yeah.
and then you're still disappointed that you're not seeing the results. Like, well, I mean, it's not like the coach can do 50% or even 40 or 30. We can do the
Totally.
guidance and pointing you in the right direction, which obviously
Yeah.
is incredibly important. If you're wanting to get somewhere and you're running at high speed in the wrong direction, it's not gonna,
Yeah.
you're never gonna get there. So you do need that right direction, but
Yeah.
at the same time, even if I point you in the right direction, you need to move, as you're saying. You need to do
Yeah.
the
Totally.
action. So I like that. I like that it puts the ownership onto the person who wants to lose weight, gain muscle, change their habits, and so on.
Yeah. Definitely. And hey, like, there's still gonna be bumps in the road too, and there's still gonna be bad weather, and, you know, like, you might run out of gas, or whatever, or you might go too fast or too slow.
Yeah.
But I really think, like, with the right guidance and accountability too, because like I say, you do have to show up. If you take action and you just give it time, like, you'll
That's
get
it.
there. You know.
I think those are like two really important points that you have just emphasized, like taking action and the time, and putting those two together, moving in the right
Yeah.
direction, and you've basically got a almost bulletproof formula. But I think most of the time we're lacking or struggling with one or the other, either moving in the
Yeah.
wrong direction on our own, or not staying consistent, or just not taking the action at all, and then
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to move forward.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, to bring it back to the initial question with the struggles as well, so like you mentioned, okay, first thing is right expectations, getting them to have the right mindset, long-term thinking, and so on. And now when it comes to that, okay, you still need to do the action taking, and I'm here to hold you accountable. How do you get people to stay consistent and stick with the routine even when things are hard, when life happens?
It's a good question, because that's really the hard part, you know. I think it really comes down to the accountability and making sure that, hey, we actually address what you're doing. Like, sure, we're going to look at weight, we're going to look at all the other data, but I'm mostly going to look at, hey, are you doing the thing what you're supposed to, you know? Are you actually, say, for example, we're getting started and we're like, hey, you know what, like, just eat more vegetables this week, you know, for the next couple weeks.
Exactly.
Is that what you're doing?
I think that is like such a good point with regards to, okay, in weeks that you are really busy or that life happens, you know, something out here or more to do at work, something with your kids whatsoever, bring it back to the basics, but make sure that those basics that you have started with are really a solid foundation where you're like, okay, maybe I can't do my optimal of 5 workouts and 10,000 steps per week, but what can I do today? Maybe I can walk around while I'm on the phone. Okay, that's one step, a little bit more movement. Or maybe I can't hit my macros perfectly and reach, I guess, 150 grams of protein or whatever. But what can I do right now? Oh, I could probably choose the protein bar instead of a cookie or whatever. So like focusing on the next little thing and focusing on, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't, just because I can't eat or haven't prepared my meals for the entire day, doesn't mean that I need to order from McDonald's or eat half of the pizza that someone just brought me. Maybe I can just have a slice and then eat a salad or whatever when I get home. I think that is like that whole all or nothing, as they always say, is like the biggest culprit for most people, where they fall out of that routine, out of that sticking with something, and basically we need to like pull them back into the direction that you know, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that's a great point too. Like, people are very excited in the beginning too, you know, which I get as well. And you're like, you know, I'm super motivated now. I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna, you know, sleep more, walk more, go to the gym, drink my water, and all the good stuff. Protein, veggies, fruit, you know. Like, no, slow down.
Yes.
Yes. Just address,
well, especially if the change isn't visible right away, if also, at all, or because that's when you lose motivation, when things go backwards, or when you're not seeing the results that you're actually after.
And that really ties into it being sustainable too. Like, you're not going to be able to do everything all at once. So let's actually start to create a couple habits first, you know, like the ones that you just really need to dial in right now, which is going to be different for most people, you know. I'd say, you know, protein, like, across the board is one major one that we start with for, you know, the vast majority of the people. But like, what you need to like work on for yourself, or you in this case, you know, is going to be different than what I need to do, you know. And I don't think we should really chase too many rabbits at once, you know. You're just going to catch one at a time anyway. So just start with one, you know, or maybe two. Like, it kind of depends on the person, but like, keep it super simple, you know.
I love that.
And what's cool too is that once you actually start seeing the results, like, hey, you know what, I'm actually starting to feel better, or hey, you know what, I'm doing the thing, like, I am eating more protein, but hey, you know, like, I'm actually seeing now that I feel more satiated. I recover better from the gym. I'm actually losing body fat, even though the scale is not moving. Like, there's so many like cool benefits there that once you start to see, hey, you know what, actually, this is actually paying off. Cool. Now you start to get it. You know, it's really like first kind of getting out of that comfort zone, which is a big thing. You know, it's really it's almost like, because you hear that all the time. You know, like, you got to step out of your comfort zone, but that's really all there is to it.
But in the end, I mean, all kind of change has to feel uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
If it's easy, first of all, anyone could do it, and we would do it anyway. But the body is so drilled to just keep doing, or the mind as well, to keep doing what you're used to. So anything that you're not used to is going to feel uncomfortable, and embracing that. But I think you're, from what I can see on your page as well, like you're working with a lot of people who really do have to make a big life change. And I don't know if it's often like an actual wake up thing where they're like, okay, if I want to be around for and see my kids grow up, I need to make a change. So sometimes we have to have these negative drivers, but of course it's also just nice to have a positive driver of saying like, I'm tired of looking at myself like this in the mirror. I know what I look like when I'm in shape, or when what I look like in order to feel good as well. And so I think it's awesome that you're starting with the simple basics if it really requires a long-term journey and not just a 3-month or whatever 5-pound weight loss.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of round it off, I would love to know if you have any main takeaways for people who are watching, in the sense of focus on these 2-3 things, or how can you become an action taker as well and take responsibility for what you're doing.
Cool. Good one. I really thought about this because I want people to kind of walk away with something like they could actually do, you know, or at least keep in mind. So first of all, I think you got to accept that it's going to be a long-term game. You know, it's a process. It's not like an event where you do this for a couple months or a couple weeks and then that's it, you're done. No, you're never going to be done. And I think the sooner we understand and like accept that, the sooner we can actually see better results, because then all of a sudden there's no like time limit or like rush to it anymore, you know? So that's one. Second, and there's like, you know, I think you probably talk about this a lot too, is just not dieting all the time, you know? You want to spend most time not dieting. If anything, like spend, you know, the majority at maintenance. Try not to live in a deficit, eat enough, because the more you do that, even if you do want to diet, like the better your results are going to be, you know?
I love that.
Let's see what I wrote down, because I made a couple notes. So
I think that this point isn't said enough, though. I think that most people think like, okay, I'm gonna get to that weight, and then I'm gonna maintain for like a couple of months, and then I'm gonna get to that weight, and I'm gonna like, I mean, that's such a good advice, as in spend most of your time at least at maintenance. I think someone has brought like an arbitrary number of like, you should spend, if you're out of the whole year, no more than like a third of the year dieting. And I think that that's a pretty good ratio, I think that's all right, actually. Of course, there are going to be years where you're going to spend more of that time dieting, but as you mentioned earlier, that time, that increased time, should be earned. So it might require you to maintain for like nearly a year beforehand, and then you can diet for half the year or whatever. Exactly. So it really does depend, but I love that one. Yeah,
for sure. I think what's also very important is just including like the fun stuff, you know? Like, you want to eat healthy, and you should, you know, mostly. But I think there's something to just eating the stuff that you really enjoy, you know, the fun stuff, like whether that's cookies or burgers or pizza, whatever. Not all the time, you know, it depends on the context still. But it's fine. You can do that weekly, you know, like you can totally, or even daily up to a certain extent. Like you can totally include the stuff that you enjoy without feeling guilty about it. So I think you also should.
That's awesome. It gives you permission to indulge every now and then. And I think like for us as coaches, it's a little bit our responsibility to sometimes show people that some things can be healthified and still be fun. So for instance, it doesn't have to be the double cheeseburger with bacon and the whole serving of fries. It might just be okay to have like a regular burger without the mayo, only the single cheese and no bacon, and maybe just steal like 3 fries of your husband's plate and have a salad with it, and you're gonna be like way happier afterwards because you're not feeling as sluggish.
You don't feel like shit afterwards.
So I think that is absolutely like awesome, in the sense of incorporate more fun foods in the foods that you love, but also at the same time you can make things like traditional recipes so much healthier by using leaner protein sources or fat sources, essentially, or swapping some of the carbs for other things, for instance, and then therefore cutting down the calories in like half, and it still tastes amazing. So really cool takeaways in the sense of fun foods, in the sense of maintaining for a long time.
And keeping it flexible, you know?
Exactly. I think that those are really, really good
Yeah.
pointers.
And then one thing, it's a little bit of homework for the people who are watching it, whether it's live or, you know, in replay. Try to pick one thing that you're not doing at the moment. Whether that's something you don't do yet or something that's super fucking uncomfortable.
Cool.
Like whatever it is, that's up to you. But try to do that for 30 days, every single day. I think that's a good thing for people.
Very, very cool. I like
because,
that. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Because that's really what I'm doing right now. You know, this is the first time I'm doing something like this. This shit makes me fucking super uncomfortable. But I'm still doing it.
Yes.
It wasn't until I think probably April last year or something that was the first time I talked into the camera. I was like freaking out, you know?
Yeah.
Now it's going better, you know, with Instagram stories, and I go live in my group and stuff as well. But like, you gotta do it, you know, if you want to grow.
Make
And
yourself feel
the same thing with going into the gym. Like, if you want to do like a snatch for the first time, you're gonna drop the bar, and then you're gonna drop it again. You're gonna drop it again. You gotta keep trying. Like, that's really all there is to it, you know.
Love it.
And I think there's something to be said about getting uncomfortable, being okay with it,
Yes.
and actually doing it. You know,
Yeah.
actually taking action and getting uncomfortable. So whether that is getting on the scale, or maybe, you know, doing like cold showers or something, which is a big one that if I tell everyone now, like, do cold showers for 30 days, no one's going to do it, you know? Or maybe some people, but you know what I mean?
Like, choose something that resonates with you for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
It's going to be different for everybody,
Totally.
but I think that is a really, really cool point, because I mean, that uncomfortable muscle or whatever, it is just that. It just practice those things that are uncomfortable are going to get easier. And then if currently cold shower is really uncomfortable, next time something different is going to be uncomfortable, and you're building up that own resistance and that own ability to overcome wanting to go into those places. So
totally. So whether it's something uncomfortable or just something new that you're not doing yet, like, you know better than I do, or Lisa, you know, like, think about that for yourself, you know, like, think, hey, what is something I can do now that I want to work on, or should probably work on, and just try that for 30 days, you know. You can use a habit tracker that I would like to send to you, or, you know, you have it as well on your website. So, or even just make a checklist yourself, you know, like, tick the boxes, you know, and see how long it can last.
Yes.
And if you know, miss a couple days, that's fine. Just pick it up again, you know.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that's right. So anybody who doesn't know, Johan wrote a blog, which is on our website, on the Nutrition Coaching and Life website, under the blog section. And I think it was called How to Create Long-Term Habits or something like that. And it does have a link to this awesome habit tracker in there. So if you haven't read the blog yet, make sure to check it out. And otherwise, Johan, thank you so much for your time and for those incredibly valuable takeaways with regards to how to become more consistent and how to embrace the long-term journey. So thank you.
For sure.
And hope we can do it again sometime soon. But
in the
meantime, enjoy your weekend.
Sure. You too. Thank you.
Bye.